you will have to structure that in some way. Okay, so this is the hard content. This is where it can kind of reflect a lecture or an essay that you're writing. But okay, a few rules of thumb with a sermon, a structure. It's got to be something that's simple. Okay, and you don't always want to go for the same like acronym or the same 3 points or something like that, where it's all alliterated. You can, but keep it varied. If you're always preaching at the same place, for example. So you need a structure that's simple, something that's memorable as well, so that even the children, if they were to be asked, well, what was he actually saying? What were the key points? Then that maybe they'll be able to recite it as well. A good sounding board for me is I will talk to my immediate family, especially if we're like stuck in the car for an hour. We're like, oh, while we're here, you know. And actually, I'll just talk through the content. I'll talk through the preparation, and they'll be able to say, yep, those parts are good, that part was trash, take that out, you know. be quite brutal and honest sometimes. The work of preparation is something that will be refined over time. And the beauty is sometimes you'll preach a sermon and God may say, well, use that again, hold on to it, and let it continue to develop and grow. You may add in another Bible verse. Also, just overall, what we're talking about today, this is not a license for us to be the best critique of preachers in our churches. And it's really easy to get there and sit there and be like, well, I've heard this before and oh, they missed that part, you know. Don't get into that spot. Appreciate the sermon. And the best thing we can do as well is actually raise up better preachers. So if you are mindful that, you know, the preacher that day, they missed a couple of thoughts out or you would have done it differently, go and affirm them to be a better preacher. And if you're going to give anything critical or constructive, wait until a few days. Because when you preach a sermon, you absorb so much nervous energy, you are emotionally flat by the end. They will smile at the door, they'll be talking to people, but lift them up as much as you can. Even if you're like, wow, that was borderline heretical, like, you know, just hold them in that place and deal with the hard questions. Like I have a rule of Wednesday. If you want to attack the sermon, wait till Wednesday, and then they've recovered enough to actually give it an honest thought.
So you know if you've got to Wednesday, you're okay.
That's right. If you got to Thursday,
then
it was a good sermon. But just a few thoughts. Just for that exercise, how many of us chose an Old Testament verse out of interest? Cool. New Testament? I had two. Even better. Okay. So as you put that together, just hold on to it. We're going to have a chance to share it soon. Okay. And we're going to move on to the delivery side now. So you may have planned the best sermon, may all be ready, but how it comes out is a whole other level. And this is where your audience is the most important people to keep in mind. As the Lord leads, as He fills you with wisdom, I may think that I've shared it the best way ever, but they may be like, I've got no idea what you just shared. So it's the ability to communicate wisely, to communicate in a way that they get the message, not that I feel like the message was given well, but they've received it. It's a bit like throwing a ball. If I'm going to pass it, I've got to pass it in a way that they can best receive it. Okay? So 3 areas that we'll look at with the delivery. That's the body language. This is the majority of where our communication comes from. Interesting. Traditionally, as Adventist preachers, we will stand behind the pulpit, and that will be our body language. And the most movement is when we turn a page, or when we pick up the Bible and put it down. Or, if we're feeling really aggressive, if we're getting excited, you'll see us do this. Like just grapple almost, like have a wrestle with the pulpit. So pulpits can be very handy, keep stuff on it, but we are not preaching to the pulpit, all right? We are not sharing God's word with this. This is just something just to hold our Bible, so to speak. Body language, eye contact. This is where the connection is made. Yeah, Phil.
This is be yourself.
I'll extrapolate on that in a few moments. Yeah. And these are just some summarizing points. Body language, I think the art is for you to be yourself. So you see how you raised up your hand and put it on your chin there.
Yeah.
That's what I'd be looking for if you're making a point. So you're not just standing there like a drill sergeant. But
that's hard though. If you don't do it often and you're out of your comfort zone, standing behind a pulpit holding on for dear life is still the best you got.
Yeah, I totally get that. And so, hey, each sermon you may be like, okay, this is one thing I'm going to work on today. I'm going to look at someone for a few more seconds, you know.
There are some things if your message has been recorded and you can build up the courage to watch it. I remember looking at one of the first ones I did, and I can't remember what it was now, but there was something I did repeatedly through it, like, don't let her scratch my head or something, and it's like, actually, don't do that again.
Yeah, it's mannerisms that can be distracting.
Yeah, but it's
That you've got to be careful
repeated, yeah, that you didn't
Overused,
realise.
yeah. That's it. And we will have expressions sometimes that we don't realise. So and then all you know, hey.
I think you made a good point at the beginning too, how you were sort of mirroring a preacher you like.
Yes.
So I think that for yourself is that actually you don't need to.
You will see preachers, they fiddle with their buttons and they kind of hold the Bible a certain way, and it's very tempting to do things and to mirror them in that manner. So be yourself. And the frame of mind I go with, treat it like you're talking to a friend, but you haven't seen them in a long time. So you're excited to see them.
Yeah.
So you're able to be yourself, but I am just so in this moment and enjoying it. Okay?
That's good.
Alright, can I share something?
Yeah.
You said you went for a walk and listened to the Bible before you preached, and that's great. Something I have done for the last few times I've spoken is I actually listened to the song "This Is Me" from The Greatest Showman,
Okay.
because it's saying to me that God has put you here for this moment, and you are who you are. You're not somebody else, and how you deliver a message and what you're going to share. This is what God has called you to do. Because I can get quite nervous about that I'm not adequate and I'm not good enough. So I listen to that and then, right, this is what God's called me to do. I've just got to do it. Yeah.
When I'm mentoring, training some of the young people that I work with, and they want to copy, they exactly want to do that. They want to copy an older person, and they love the way they do it, but it's not their style at all. So I say to them, when the good Lord made you, He gave you a suit of armour to fight in and to work in. Now you use that, and you're exactly the right person for the person you meet. And they are. They relax and they do a marvellous job. They're fighting in their armour, as it is at that moment.
Body language needs to be culturally appropriate too. So what you do in a certain context would be interpreted differently in other contexts too. You've got to be mindful of where you are, of even the country that you're in perhaps, and you may be called to preach in other places. Eye contact, again, culturally, you've got to base it on what works. There are some places, if you look at them, oh goodness, it just throws them the opposite way. They can't wait to get out of there. And then voice, just the energy and the flow that you have with your voice. So we're just going to talk through these different points. And let's go for it. Luke 4 verse 32. And they were astonished at his teaching, for his word was with authority. And this is the key here. What do you think the Bible means when it's talking about authority? Yeah.
Initially, when you read it, it seems like it's the manner in which he's doing it. But if you like go and do some study on what it means, some commentators say that it's because in his days the Pharisees they were usually referring to authorities of other people outside before them, while Jesus told, this is what I say. So he's using his authority because he's not relying on somebody else who said in the past.
That's good.
Is that exousia word, is it? Exousia, which is power?
I'm not sure. I've never looked at the original here.
Yeah, because there's that, that dynamite, dynamis sort of thing, which is, but not everyone does that. But if you've got the backup there, the words, the background, the history, and all the rest of it, that holds a lot of credibility and authority, doesn't it?
If you have studied it for yourself, be confident in it. This is the best news ever, the gospel.
So your experience and conviction.
Yeah.
If you understand that word means your own conviction, you gotta believe what you're sharing. It's just like a salesperson comes in, does a pitch. They gotta do it in a way where people will actually buy the product.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. I think that's how I understand that word.
Yeah. One more.
I was saying basically the same thing, like if you're like sell it, actually sell it, get up there and not and be shy about it. Like sell it like people actually want this. Because if you're not willing to show that it's a good thing that you're willing to sell, then why would somebody want that?
Yeah.
Excuse my term, the right sell, but
And that's where I think personal experience comes in very handy. Yeah, like
it's
you
passionate.
you gotta experience it first before you actually share it with others.
That's what I always look for with someone. Someone may have the most polished and well-rounded delivery, but if I don't know that they're doing it themselves, that they're living it, it's really hard for me to take on board. And like in a postmodern, even Kiwi society today, people want to know that you are authentic, that you're genuine in what you're saying, that you're living it, it's consistent, but also that you believe in it too. So this can come through in the way that we're preaching. All right, let's start off with the body language. And I've called this crockery bodies. So that when, bringing a meal out to a table, the body language is what everything is sitting in. The pots, the pans, the dishes, okay? And so, yes. So watch what we're doing here. If you are nervous, like Tracy is saying, you'll be doing this, and kind of a bit of all this. For me, I used to get in trouble at college because I do this a lot. You've probably noticed, but I'm comfortable here. This is me. But they used to say, I can see that you're actually being yourself, but just watch it because it can be interpreted as really lazy. I'm just careful. Like this is literally my most comfortable stance, like this, when preaching. You've probably seen it. It's like, well, where have I seen that before? It just happens naturally. So what you want is your body language to confirm or be consistent with what you're saying. You don't want it to be a distraction, don't want it to get in the way. It should just be complementary with what you're saying, okay? So if you're having to like fully emphasize things and that's not actually you, I wouldn't even go there so much. And if it is you, let it come out. It's totally fine. So avoid the distractions with your body language. So as I mentioned about the grappling, I don't know, what are some other ways that we can be showing nervousness with?
Eyes down, folding arms.
Yeah, it's like,
Reading.
right. So eye contact, we'll get to that in the next one, totally.
And reading
That's
everything.
yeah, I reckon it's tricky when you've got to wear glasses and then
Oh.
everyone's blurry out there.
It's a good thing.
And you almost, so if you are short-sighted,
Yeah,
you have to go like this when looking at everyone, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't want to be like the principal, just like overlooking.
It's not good, like you're, telling everybody off and you're looking over your glasses.
Totally. So make it work for you. But again, and let's practice it today when we have a moment in a short time. Let someone actually just have a look at what you look like when you're doing public speaking. But be confident in yourself. God has called you for this moment. I listen to music when I'm on the way to church a lot too. After I, surrender my life. You give those bold prayers on the day you're preaching, Lord, whatever I've done, forgive me. Serve you for the rest of my life, etc. But whatever revs up your faith, your commitment to the Lord. So trying to think of songs. There'll be different songs for different seasons. And often I will listen to music that relates to that message. It's got good theology, it just expands it even more. But something that brings it home. Your body language, what you're doing with your hands, where you're standing, even the way that you are posturing, it should be complementing the message, as I said before. I'm a walker, you'll see I'll walk around a lot, and that's just because I like to stay engaged. That's totally fine if that is you. Some will stand in one place, like glue is underneath their feet. They're not moving, but they'll be doing a lot of this. And that's fine if that is how you express yourself, okay? The more body language you can use though, the more communication comes out, yeah. All right, let's keep going. Next, it's the eyes. So this is the eye connections. Not everyone can memorize a whole script, especially if you're limited with time. What I will do though is I memorize the structure, memorize the key points. And if you can practice in your own time, it just helps for things to flow. But every now and again, if you've got your notes or if you've partially memorized parts, take time just to stop and just to reflect on where you are. Church buildings are designed differently. Some will be very long, some will be very wide. But as a rule of thumb, pick 4 places that are in different spots and turn yourself towards them. So if I've got here, corner, I'll be saying, hey, happy Sabbath everyone, so good to see you. loving what God is doing in your life. And I love in this verse how it says this point. And then let's turn to this other place. So by picking these different corners, you're constantly letting people know you are including in this. It just, it just flows a bit. So you think of those who are close, those who are far behind, and don't do the awkward thing where you're just always looking at one person as you're preaching, and eyes like they will feel super uncomfortable.
Stop preaching it back.
They'll just be looking like this after a while. So pick the corners, and then as you're doing it, eyes, they just give depth. Eyes are the light of the body. So as you're pouring into a point, assisted with your body language, you may just come and stand in a certain place. You may be reenacting a part of the story that you're bringing out. But as you stand there, and as you slow down your speech, and you're just able to really lock into someone. So never stay for more than 3 seconds. But for that moment, briefly, George, and I'm talking here, and I just love the way that God is able to just really engage with someone more personally. So take your time in those moments, okay? If you're not feeling awkward, most of the time they won't either. Just, 3 seconds, okay? On each person. Okay, and then finally, the energy of the voice. So, again, you need to sound like yourself, but there needs to be clarity in what you're saying. So, it doesn't have to be perfect. If you stumble on words, I think you will have heard me before. Just sometimes I'll get a bit of, what's it called again? Where I can't pronounce it, it's la 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 la, it's not coming out. I forget what it's called. Anyway, every now and again you may mess up on a certain word, just let it come out naturally again. Have another attempt, take your time. But with the timing, this is where energy can flow. If you're building up to your key point, let it come fast. And then this happened, and I couldn't believe what was happening, and boom, God did it. He saved that person. It was amazing. So the speed of your voice. But then it fell. It was the worst thing ever. So you slow it right down. Allow silence. Silence just gives the moment. Allow people just to stay there. So you want to inflect your voices. Kiwis, typically, we are not good at this. We would rather stay in our teaching, conversational voice, and we'll just talk like this. Even if the point is super sad or the point is really exciting, we'll just stay there. So mix it up. Your timing, let it slow down. Let it speed up whenever you're wanting to talk faster. And then match your volume to certain points. So again, usually if you're getting slower, it'll get quieter. And then when it's really important and you can't wait for this point to come home, you bring it louder. But speak from your heart, most importantly. There is the inflection of tones as well. If it's a really deep point, if you're really excited about something, So there's all these different inflections you can be using, but be yourself, most importantly, again. But the variety of these different things, it will build. This is similar to a plane, that as the plane takes off, you want to start off nice and easy. The hook, it's kind of like you're at the top. Maybe the plane takes off like this. The turbines are about to kick in on the plane, and just as you can feel the engines roar, you're about to take off. That's where the hook comes in. As the plane comes higher and higher and higher, you're building the variety of your inflections. So don't start super strong and then drop down. Build it, build it, build it. In my notes, I'll just highlight something in red when I need to be getting something big, building up, or if it needs to be getting slower and really coming to a solid point. But the ideal would be just before you come to the jump, everything is getting stronger and stronger and more, more poignant as it's reaching that higher point through these different inflections. My heart should be resounding more and more, not less and less. And sometimes, and I do it myself all the time, we'll almost apologize because we're going too long in a sermon. And it's like the plane is just slowly coming down and down and down and down into a nice gentle landing. And it's like our voice just, have a great afternoon, everyone.
If the plane lands and the plane doesn't take off again and then try and land and take off again and try and land. Content-wise, we want the plane to land, but delivery, we want the plane to stay up there. Yeah.
Right. So if our voice drops to a point that the plane lands, that's something to work on for us. And I do this all the time. Generally speaking, I have more of a calm voice that comes out. So it's not a natural preacher's voice that I have. So we just have to be aware of these things and really work out. So we want the table to look something like this. You've got all the crockery in place, food is there, it's looking good, everything's looking nice and tidy. It's very easy to interact and come and eat together. If the table was a mess, all right, it's a lot harder to come and find a good meal. So we want to eat together with other people. This is where we have the practical side for us now, okay? So we've got two ways we can do this, and it's totally up to you. Pastor Jordan's going to help us out for this. One is you can go back to your partners and you can take time to share a 2-minute message of what you just prepared, okay? And it's just you and that person. Alternatively, if you're brave enough, we can have a chance just to share a 2-minute message to all of us here. Stand up, give the hook, expose the structure of the dig, and send us with the jump.
Can I just ask another question?
Yeah.
Like, Jordan has a very powerful voice and good preaching from that perspective. You talked about you not having...
My natural speaking voice is more
Yeah.
gentle.
So I think it's harder for a woman as well. I don't know whether you've ever thought of that, but we have a different tone to our voice completely.
That's true.
And so it's, I think, often quite difficult to sometimes get that more powerful... Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Without yelling.
Without yelling.
It's a different tone, different pitch.
Yeah.
But I would say the ability to have volume is the same for a guy and a girl. But it'll sound different. I don't know if you've heard a female preacher get really excited before. So you shouldn't be screaming at everyone. Neither should guys, right? But as you reach that sweet spot of a dig, your volume can increase. And this is the difference for a preacher. It doesn't come naturally for me. But if I really believe that God so loved the world, I can still have a caring voice. But it's like it's the last thing I want someone to hear.
So it's more animated rather than volume.
Correct.
And energy
Passion.
isn't,
Let the
yeah,
passion come through.
energy isn't necessarily volume. It can
No.
be it's the tone of your voice.
Good,
So another
good
thing
call.
too is for people that don't preach often, like I've only done a couple of little testimonies here and there and Bible studies and stuff like that, so I'm probably the least experienced in this room. But I find that what I speak about is real close to home. So no matter what it is, I make it really personal because that's my story, right? But then the emotion comes into it. What do you do to control that? Like I don't want to not speak from personal to take that emotion out.
Yeah.
Like I can feel myself now. Like it's just stupid. It controls you.
Anyone ever preached and broken down crying before?
Yeah.
Me.
And yeah, it depends on how emotional you are at the time. I've had absolutely weeping and sobs and couldn't actually recollect, and I just sounded like this, and I just sounded ridiculous. But other moments you'll just, let a few tears drop and you can get back into it. You need to allow yourself to find the message again. But showing your heart is actually a really credible part of the sermon too. Probably the best sermons I've heard is when the preacher has broken down to a certain extent. And don't do it on purpose, don't dramatize your emotions, but
I've found giving myself a good pinch, a bit of a painful stimuli is helpful with that. Yeah.
Because I'm just like choking up. Like it's hard then to just
move on.
I'm not a person that can just go, okay, I've had that moment and move on. Like it just stays in my tone. And you can hear it quiver, like it's awful. How do you get rid of that?
So what you need is just something just to project that dynamic side again, and sometimes just having a break. So if you've got someone there who can just sing a chorus for me, I will actually just lead out in a chorus. And I'll be like, that was a golden point. You know what? We're going to pause and sing, and I'll just lead out in a song, and it'll just give me enough time just to settle down and get back into it. Or there's no rush coming out of those moments though. If it's a really heartfelt point that you've made and it just hits home, I've seen preachers stand there for over a minute just to contain themselves again, and it's okay. You are in. It depends on the depth of it too. If you need to totally distract yourself, just avoid it. But emotions are healthy. Like it helps bring out the heart of what you're saying.
It's different though, like if you've got you're speaking and you can feel it back. It's and you get emotional feeling that. I think that's different because it feels like everyone's feeling it, if that makes sense. But if you are reading something and you know what's coming and you're feeling it already, like that's not successful. Like, you need to.
Mostly people will connect with your emotions as well, and it will resonate with somebody else, and in some regards it will show the genuineness as well of what you're sharing.
Another version of a hook is, sorry, go.
It's authentic. You
Yeah.
know, when I've had moments like that, I've usually had someone come up to me afterwards and be like, I felt exactly like that.
Yeah.
You know, my exposing myself allowed them to be able to share.
We are instruments, and you never know how God is using what we're going through to really speak to someone else.
Your demanding does not use that method. You say to him, God, please forgive us today.
I wouldn't even say that for you because you know what it'll do next. You know, with the hook, you can give a disclaimer, or when you're about to get into that point, hey, just letting you know this is something that's really dear to my heart. So if I do get emotional, just be aware that it might happen. It's kind of like before someone speaks at a funeral. It's expected then, and then if you do need to reach for the box of tissues, or you know, you could even make light of it. It may not be appropriate, but you know, if you've already given a warning and you're heading down that hill, and be like, and here it comes. You know, it'll just allow everyone to be like, okay. So we're gonna break into do this. I'd like to ask what method we prefer. If you prefer to do it either in partners and just preach to the person you're with.